Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. This is a webinar series on digital initiatives and today we will be talking about virtual labs. This session is going to be live and interactive, which means you can participate in the session with your questions, queries, and if any feedback is there, feel free to share the same with us. So we have two guests with us also who will elaborate on the topic and we will talk about it in detail. But before that, let me tell you about my phone number, which is 8800040559. That's the phone number through which you can reach us. And we also have a specific email ID for you, which is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. If you feel that there is something that is missing or you want any kind of further information, you can write to us on this email ID. You are watching this live and interactive session which is presented by CIET NCERT on our PME Vidya channels from 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube channel NCERT Official. Now when I say YouTube channel NCERT Official, you can always go to the comment section, put in your questions there, your suggestions, your feedback and get connected to us instantly. So the topic today is digital initiatives, virtual labs. What are virtual labs? How they work? How they are playing an important role in teaching learning experience? Are they some kind of replacement to physical labs? And what exactly we are doing in this regard? How this process works? We will talk about it in detail. Yes, so let me introduce you all to our experts for the day. We are joined by Dr. Parveen B. Benja. Ma'am, namaskar and welcome to the session.
Thank you.
So, ma'am is Associate Professor from Education Technology, Department of ICT Training Division here in NCERT. And we also have with us Ms. Nidhi Adlakhatuli. Ma'am, namaskar and welcome to the session.
Thank you.
Ma'am is Senior Academic Consultant from DICT CIET NCERT. Now, ma'am, before I go into the question and answer round and I ask all these important details, I request you to kindly share a brief overview of what exactly we are going to learn in this session.
Okay, thank you, Harpreet. Today we are here to tell you about the very digital initiative and very informative and very emerging technologies in our education system. So, when we will talk about the digital initiative, there is so many digital initiatives so far we are taking care, and Government of India also given a lot of emphasis on the digital initiative at a school education level as well as in higher education level as well as in the technical and vocational education level. So, today we are here going to tell you about a very informative digital initiative, that is virtual lab. So, before going to tell you about what is virtual labs, we need to understand what each actually policy says.
Yes.
So, what policies actually emphasize about the virtual labs and the technology integration in our education system.
That's right.
So, let us understand what is digital initiative and how our policy, the NEP 2020, emphasize the importance of technology integration and a virtual lab context.
That's right. So there's a lot to look forward to, and since you talked about NEP 2020, it's very important to discuss the vision. So I had this very first question for you, that how does NEP 2020 envision the role of these virtual labs in transforming the teaching learning experience or process here in the country?
Okay, very good questions, Harpreet. First, we need to understand what is NEP and how this policy perspective is important for us to understand before integrating the technology. So, this policy document given more emphasis and the importance of this 21st century skill in our education system. The first one you can see here, the technology use and integration, the extensive use of technology across our education system and in our teaching, learning and assessment process is very much important. And that recognizing the potential and possibilities of technology is very much important before integrating in our education system.
Right.
And that technology having a broader concept, you can see that hardware approach, there is a system approach and there is a software approach. And we need to understand what is the different approaches of this technology and how we can understand this technology approaches and how we can integrate in our education system. And basis on this, that this NEP 2020 comprehensively explain this technology integration or use in our teaching, learning and assessment process. And second point is here the ensuring equitable use of technology. We know our country is a diverse country. We are diverse in our demography, in the language, in the accessibility, and in so many aspects we are very diverse in nature. And we know our different types of learners are there, different types of teachers are there. Okay, so we need to cover all the students as well as the last mile students, or we can say all teachers, irrespective of any demography issues.
Right.
So this NEP 2020 emphasize the importance of this, equitable use of technology, and it's ensuring that how we will provide this technology to our education system. For that, infrastructure is very much important, training is very much important, and availability is very much important. We need to ensure that all teachers are capable enough to include in their teaching learning process. So that is the second point. And if you will see, next one is your very much important, until and unless you will not empower our teacher, it's very difficult to empower our student. So empowering a teacher is very much important. That's why the third point is there, that enhancing the teaching and learning. So we need to strengthen our teacher through the pedagogical approaches and through the technological approaches. And the third part is the content creation, digital repository and dissemination. We know we are using multiple media for content creation, just like taking audio content is there, video content is there, and we have visual content is there, and infographics are there, this documents are there.
Yes.
So different forms of content we have, and we are creating with the help of technology. So how this technology is going to help us to create this content? Because many a times, until or unless we will not learn how to use the technology, then very difficult to create the content. And this NEP is giving more emphasis and promoting that every teacher educator and all the stakeholders of this education system should learn how we can use technology to create the content. Yes. After that creation of the content, we must ensure the repository.
Yeah.
Repository where we are storing all these resources, so that students, teachers and whoever the stakeholders in our education system, they can access the content anytime, anywhere, any place and any mode. And the next one is dissemination. Dissemination is very important because we know our country is very vast, remote areas peoples are there, we are unable to reach them, and technology ensuring us to reach that last people in our countries. So the next point is that is blended mode of learning. Blended mode of learning, here we are blending the mode of content delivery, we are blending the different types of technology, and we are blending the different approaches of teaching, learning and assessment process. So different mode we are blending here, and that is well emphasized in our policy document. And the last point, that is addressing the digital divide. This is very much important. It's not like that whoever is able to access the content, they are accessing, those who are not able to access, they are lay behind. So we need to mend that division, that nobody should left behind in integration of technology and access of technology or application of technology in teaching learning process. These all points are well emphasized in our policy document, that is NEP 2020.
Right. So we can say that NEP 2020 has a very wide vision about the use of ICT, especially when we talk about inclusivity, blended learning and whatnot. And Nidhi ma'am, I have another question for you related to the perspectives only. How do you think that NEP 2020 aims to address equity in education, though ma'am has mentioned about it a bit? So when we talk about using virtual labs, especially for students in remote areas where we do not have much of internet connectivity, and of course accessibility is also less, how do you think it is ensuring equity?
Somehow you have answered your question while asking the question. So as we know, virtual labs, so we are providing content online. When we are talking about virtual labs, we are talking about performing experiments in the online mode. So in remote areas, we know that the physical labs, either they are not properly established. If they are, then chemicals are not sufficiently available or glassware is not available. So there are certain constraints because of which they are not able to perform experiments or
Right.
every experiment. But in case of virtual labs, because we are talking about online mode, so all the glassware, all the chemicals and all the material which are required, once the content is developed, that will be available to each and every child. It will not be any kind of constraint in financial context that once a particular chemical is consumed, now the learner cannot perform the experiment. So it provides equity in terms of caste, gender or demography, whether a person is belongs to any gender, any caste. They can access virtual labs, they can perform experiments. They just require certain devices, computer, laptop and internet, and they can perform the experiment. So this is how virtual labs is promoting equity. Also it is promoting inclusivity, because there are children, there are learners who have certain kind of disabilities, because of which they cannot perform every experiment, they cannot take every step. They require to hold certain objects, certain apparatus, certain
Yes.
chemicals they have to take, and that may be problematic for them. But in case of virtual labs, because there is limited movement, the obstacles, the limitations are reduced, and they can perform experiment comparatively easily.
Yes.
And as ma'am has also talked about blended learning, it's not that we are focusing or the virtual labs are not only focusing on remote areas. Along with remote areas, it is focusing on the entire country, on the learners of the entire country, because it is it can be used even if you have physical laboratory. So it can be used before the actual experiment. Teacher can introduce the experiment using virtual labs, and then on the other day, on the next day, students can perform the experiment in the physical lab. So whether a child belongs to a remote area, whether a child has physical lab or not, this is useful for each and every child. This enhances, if you have physical lab, then virtual lab will enhance the learning experience, because it will provide you opportunity to perform experiment before the actual laboratory period, and after that also, and multiple times, as many times as you wish to, and you can stop whenever you want to in between on any step and think about why something is happening. And also, because you are performing an experiment, you are also fulfilling the experiential learning goals. You are performing the experiment, you are able to perform each and every step, and you are experiencing that how the changes are taking place, what is happening after a particular step. So virtual labs is making us digitally literate. We are, while using virtual lab, we are somehow practicing, enhancing our skills of utilizing the digital mode.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not only preparing the safety and security that comes with performing experiments, but you also get ready for the experiments before stepping into the physical laboratory. And of course, it's no replacement. But if you want to make the education accessible to all to their doorstep, these are the initiatives that we look forward to. Yes. And now let's talk about the pedagogical perspective. It's very important to learn about that in detail. So, Praveen ma'am, I have this question for you, that how do you think these virtual labs support differentiated learning and address diverse learning needs that are there in a classroom?
Okay, thank you. The question need to be addressed to all teachers. Just now we have seen that Nidhi have emphasized that inclusivity and equitable use of technology. And here we need to focus on the pedagogical perspective.
That's
what
right.
is pedagogy? First of all, we need to understand.
Yes.
And pedagogy actually is nothing, it's the art and science of teaching and learning. So for a teacher, it is very much important to understand what is the art of teaching and what is the science of teaching and learning.
That's right.
So when we integrate technology in our traditional pedagogical approaches and in our day-to-day physical or normal classroom settings, so that teaching and learning a bit shift because the process of delivering the content, the way we are interacting with the students and the way we assess the students. So when technology we integrate in this our process, there is a shift in our interactivity with the students and that content explanation, delivery and the question taking from the students likewise. Okay. So when we use this virtual lab in our teaching learning process, is very much important to understand how the pedagogical approach is shifting and how this is getting a new shape. So here I would like to explain here. So when we integrate that virtual lab in our teaching learning process, what happens in our pedagogical process? So we'll see the number one point is strengthening the conceptual understanding. So this virtual lab is a digital lab where the content are available in the form of computer generated images, graphics, simulation, video, animation, everything is there. So these all format of that content help to strengthen the content delivery as well as help the teachers as well as student to understand the concept in a better way.
Yes.
Okay. And the second point is their enhanced student engagement. Once technology enter in our teaching learning process, students get very excited. So how this content is better visualized, how the content will be better presented. So when the concept or any content is present in a graphical way, maybe in a concept map, maybe in images, maybe a video, maybe an animation, a chart, a flow chart, etc. So that increase students' curiosity and that finally lead them to engage in that teaching learning process. So here you can see here the interactive elements keep student engaged, making learning enjoyable and less intimidating. So third point is enhanced lesson plan is kind of helping going to help teachers. So how they can enhance their daily lesson planning and all. So when they are integrating the technology and virtual lab in their lesson plan, so it's make more that interactive, more better simplified way we are presenting the content. So that enhancing their lesson delivery and the quality of the content and as well as the lesson planning. And the third, the next point is differentiated and collaborative learning. Normally in our conventional classroom, yes, some differentiated and collaborative learning happens, but just now we have discussed about that remote learning. The students from the different areas we have. So how we can collaborate with them also?
Yes.
Because in one classroom only 30 students are there, only 30 students get collaborated in one classroom. But technology giving an opportunity that you can collaborate beyond your school
Strength.
boundaries. So the beyond your school boundaries and within your premises, you can connect to any part of our classrooms in countries. So that possible with the help of this technology.
Yes.
And the last point, that is ownership of the learning, that is autonomy, is giving autonomy to the teachers as well as the students. Okay, so explore their content and concept in the virtual lab on their pace, in their interest and their whatever the subject they like or not, the content they like or not. Many a times they like one concept, so they repeatedly wanted to explore that one. So that is the autonomy and ownership of their learning. So this is the way that this virtual lab is actually going to help teachers to enhance their teaching learning process.
Absolutely, we can say that this technology is reaching the last mile learner, and it is so immersive in nature that you actually start enjoying your studies and you can repeat it and you can use it at your own convenience. There is nothing that you have to go to a particular place and all. But I think these virtual labs also help teachers, and they create kind of more engaging and effective content or lesson plans with the help of that. So how do you think it's happening?
Okay. Teachers might be thinking that technology is there, our traditional class or conventional class is there. So in which way we can incorporate this virtual labs activities in our lesson plan and our daily routine class. So if you see that pre lab sessions are there, performance lab sessions are there, and your post lab session is there.
Yes.
So you can plan that lab activities accordingly in your lesson plan. Suppose you wanted to teach some concept, or you wanted to show some experiment to the students. So all the procedure you are planning in your lesson plan. So you can integrate this virtual lab in your lesson plan. Any simulation or any activities you wanted to show to the students in the physical classroom, you use this virtual lab and show them this is the simulation, this is the way you can learn. Okay, so in this way teacher can engage the student and enhance their learning, and that will better help them to conceptual understanding.
Absolutely, it is giving a new direction to the entire teaching and learning experience. And though you have mentioned already kind of ownership that you have for the learning, so in what ways you think that virtual labs encourage self-paced learning, and of course it helps students to take the ownership of what they are learning and how they are learning?
Okay. So self-paced learning means this is my way of learning, my pace is there, and from any time, anywhere, any place, any device, I can opt that one for my learning. Suppose I am performing one activities in the virtual lab. In mid of the lab activity, I have some work and I have disconnected or I have left that activities. Okay, so later on I can continue that one. So that is the self. Whenever I want, I can learn. So whenever I want to discontinue, I can discontinue. I can suppose I want to repeat that one, I can repeat that one. So that type of freedom and the self-paced activities you can do with this virtual lab. So teachers are also helping the students to do that things, and better when the students own their own learning, so that actually motivate them to learn any content in a more experiential way.
Yeah, we can say that there is no restriction for time and space here because you're owning the learning process. And now after pedagogical perspective, let's move on to technological perspective, which is of course an integral part of it. So Nidhima, what do you think is the essential technological infrastructure that is needed for a successful virtual lab setup in schools?
If we are talking about that, if we know that it is cost effective, still certain basic requirements are there. So because it is provided online, so one thing is obvious that we require internet.
Right.
So internet is required, the device is required, preferably computer or laptop, but it can work on tablets also and mobile phones also. So you require those systems, you require power supply, you require regular power supply.
Yes.
And you require that the internet should not be slow, because if it will be slow, then also it will hinder the performance.
Yes, of course.
And it will reduce the interest of the learner as well. So these are certain basic things which are required for smooth activities.
Now that you've mentioned about the basic requirements, I'm sure there are challenges also because connectivity is a very big issue. Yes. So what are some of the other or similar technological challenges that a school faces while implementing virtual lab setup in their schools?
As I have said, power supply. So we know that in our country, power supply is a big issue. So one of the challenges is power supply, and another challenge is digital literacy.
And how can they overcome the same?
So digital literacy can be taken care by collaborating with government organization. There are various programs which are going on, and through that, if teachers are given training, then teachers will become literate digitally, and they can give that information, they can train their learners as well and other teachers as well. So by that we can overcome this problem and we can make our country digitally literate. Through this, this can be a reason also to make everyone digitally literate. And for power supply, for sufficient infrastructure, for sufficient computers, laptops, with private organizations also there are multiple partnerships which can be done, and many organizations are collaborating also with various private organizations, or they can write to the government also that they require all these things. They can talk to the state government, central government, and then they can get the resources.
Of course, you can take the help of the government and support the government will support you, because making education accessible to all, reaching their doorstep, is absolutely mandatory, because we are talking about equity in education and inclusivity. Now let's talk about virtual lab as teaching learning tools. We have been learning about them, and we know that there are different virtual labs available. So Praveen ma'am, how do you think that these virtual labs enhance the hands-on learning experiences, especially for students who lack access to real physical laboratories?
Okay, here we need to understand that learning experience. So what makes us that experiential kind of feeling?
Right.
So until or unless you will not interact with any object or any activities or any environment, we cannot experience what's actually happening here.
That's right.
So normally what we do in a physical lab setup, that we interact with the objects and all. So whatever the apparatus there in our lab, physical lab, and what are the chemicals we are using, apparatus we are using, and setup of that lab is very much important.
Yes.
So students are actually interacting with that environment, physical environment, interacting with the objects and the apparatures, and they are performing that one. So when they are performing, they are involved on that activities. So there we will see that by hand, by head, and by heart, they are involved in that environment, using that various apparatures for their experience. Okay, so this physical lab is providing such type of experience. Same way this virtual lab is providing the same experience here. Just now Nidhi told about the digital literacy.
Yes.
So we are living in the 21st century, and we are adapted to this technology, and very much important for everyone to adapt and accept the technology. This is the 21st century skill. So with the help of these 21st century technologies and tools, we are experiencing that one, and one of the tool is the digital tool, and that is the virtual lab tool. So with the help of this tool, we are enhancing our experience, developing our better learning understanding. So here I would like to highlight some point here. So the bridging the gap between the theory and the practice. If you see in science education, there are some theories, and after that we are testing that theories, retesting the theories, we are building a hypothesis, we are testing the hypothesis, and we are recording the data, and after that we are concluding with the point either this theory is proved. So we are testing that theories again and again. So we are doing in the physical lab, as well as we are supporting these activities with the help of virtual lab. So somehow it's helping to bridge the theory and practice. So while we are using a virtual lab, so many concepts are there in science, we cannot see that one. And suppose current is passing, so current we cannot see with our naked eye. But in virtual lab, that visualization can possible. We can show some simulation, we show some graphic. Yes, this current is actually flowing.
Very beautiful point.
Okay, so this theory and practice can be meant with the help of physical as well as the virtual lab both. Okay, now access to hand-on experiences. So we know in physical lab setup we are confined to timetable, we are confined to subject specific timeline. So many a times every students cannot get opportunities to access the content and access to do or perform many activities in the physical lab. So that physical lab can be extended to virtual lab. So that activities can do in virtual lab setup. And the same ways many a times we do something, so we cannot get proper and timely feedback and reinforcement from our teachers. Either we are doing good or not, correct or incorrect. So that learning makes more possible if we make more mistakes. So the trial and error is there. So in normally what happens, so whatever the trial and error we are doing, so what we are trying, what error we are getting, and again what we need to repeat that one. So this virtual lab is giving that immediate feedback and immediate response. Okay, and even this technology is supporting that either you are performing in a right direction, if you are doing also no problem, you are immediately get a feedback. So immediately you are tracking your learning.
Yes. True.
So that way that virtual lab giving a learning experience.
Absolutely. So, can you quote some of the examples or experiments or activities that we can perform very easily in virtual labs and that are a little challenging when it comes to physical laboratories?
Yes, many times what happen, that doing experiment, we are like theory is one side and practical is one side. So
Yeah.
sometimes we are unable to make a balance between theory and practice.
Yes.
And repeatedly we are doing one experiment repeatedly we are doing the experiment, and sometimes we are unable to relate this with the theory part.
True.
Okay, that can be cover up, or we can do better in the virtual lab. Whatever the theoretical practices is there, we can perform repeatedly in our virtual lab setting. And the challenge is the technical, just now we have discussed the technical challenges we have. Same time we have a pedagogical challenges we have. Until or unless we will not properly use the technology, somewhere that essence of that learning is lost.
Yes.
So that may be a challenge for that. For that, teacher need to understand what is virtual lab and how virtual lab works, and how we can integrate in our teaching learning process, how we can assist our students, and how we will help them. So this is one kind of challenging we have, and we need to overcome that one as a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think teachers can also use virtual labs in different formats for different things. Like here we can talk about reinforcing concepts taught in the classroom, especially in STEM subjects.
Yes.
So please say something about it.
STEM is very much important. We need to understand, that science, technology, and and mathematics education. And this experiment is that lab activities is mostly we perform in STEM education. And we need to understand that nature of science, and we can understand that all the theory, all the principles and laws of science. Suppose physics is there, the fundamentals of physics we need to understand, and where the biology is there, fundamentals of biology we need to understand. Same way the chemistry, likewise other subjects is there. But science demand more experiment.
Yes.
We need to try again and again, we need to perform again and again, we need to validate the data, we need to test the hypothesis, okay, so that we can come out with a new theories, we can come out with a new hypothesis and all. So this is very much important here, and this NEP 2020 also emphasized that STEM education is very much important for any nation. Growth and development and sustainability, STEM education is very much important. So somehow this virtual lab is strengthening our STEM education, for giving that virtual lab setup where student can perform the complex experiment, advanced level concept, and they can draw conclusion from there, and that can be help them to better learning of science and mathematics subjects.
Absolutely. I mean, this is incredible, and we are doing all our efforts so that virtual labs can be used as a great learning tool in the classrooms, and we can overcome all the challenges that are posed to us by different physical laboratories as such. Now let's talk about Diksha platform. It has developed this beautiful vertical called virtual labs. What is the purpose of the same? And secondly, how can teachers and students benefiting from it?
We have already discussed a lot about virtual labs. So that is the purpose. As you know that Diksha is one nation, one digital platform. So all the digital material related to education is available on Diksha for free. Because we are focusing on equity, and if we are focusing on equity, the content which we are providing, that should be freely available. And on Diksha, each and everything is available for free, whether it is a video content or simulation. So that's how that's the purpose of making virtual labs available on Diksha.
Right.
And because all the resources are available for free, teachers and learners can use them whether for practicing, for performing the experiment for the first time, or practicing the experiment, or integrating it in the lesson plan. Whatever teacher is going to teach in the theoretical session, they can correlate it with the experiments given in the virtual labs, and this is how they can integrate virtual lab on a regular basis. Even in the theory class, they are not required to wait for the practical session they can integrate virtual labs in the theory class, and they can make students understand the concept in a better way by integrating virtual labs, because theory and practical are not different, but they are part of each
Yes.
other.
So, what kind of resources and tools are available in the Virtual Labs vertical on Diksha platform to support teachers in lesson planning?
So there are a variety of resources which are available, whether it's theory or procedure, all the steps which are required to be performed, the videos which show the entire experiment, and simulation, the most important thing, which helps in performing the experiment. So our focus is on hands-on learning. So because simulation is also provided and the supporting material is provided, so teachers can plan that what kind of information they can take from the theory which is given, or the video, and how all the steps which are performed in the simulation, why those steps are taken, so they can be ready with all the questions
Yes.
related to each and every step, and this is how they can work on their lesson plan to integrate virtual labs.
Well, we have so far understood a lot about these platforms and these virtual labs, and we're left with like 10 to 12 more minutes. So can we have some kind of demonstration where we can understand these labs practically, how they're working?
Sure. So I'll quickly show you certain experiments as per the availability of time, and for that we can focus on the slide on my screen.
Yes.
So here you can see that I have already shown experiment related to biology, that is importance of light and photosynthesis. So we have talked about that the students get the chance to perform the experiment virtually. So how we can perform experiment. So here you can see there are certain variables given. First of all, you can select the power source. So you can see that the intensity of the light has changed. You can change the distance also. So here, by using these variables, the learner will be even more interested, because in the physical laboratory they may not have sufficient time to change the conditions and then perform the same experiment multiple times. So here you can see that we have option of 4 different types of light. I am keeping clear, that means white light, and then when I'll click on start, the timer will begin. So I have clicked on start and the bubbles have started appearing. So this is showing that the photosynthesis is taking place. I have stopped it at 33 seconds, and in white light 4 bubbles are formed. If I change it to red light and then again start it, and I will try to stop it at the same time, then only we can compare the results.
Right.
So almost at the same time, now the number of bubbles have increased to 7. So by this we can see that as the different types of lights are provided, or the plant is exposed to different type of lights, the rate of photosynthesis changes.
Yes.
And that is what the importance of light is. Definitely without light experiment, the photosynthesis cannot take place, but it also depends upon which kind of light is provided for photosynthesis to occur.
Right.
We can speed up the process by changing the light, and this process is very easily and very clearly it is demonstrated in the virtual labs. Otherwise, if we will tell the same facts as facts in the classroom, then it is likely that most of the students will forget it by the next day.
Yes.
But after performing this in the virtual lab, they will most probably will never forget it.
Absolutely.
We can quickly go to one more experiment.
Okay, that was for biology, and this time we are having chemistry experiment.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can perform this experiment, that the law of conservation of mass. So in the theory class, as I have already said, that whatever teachers are teaching in the theory class, they can relate it through the virtual lab experiments also. They are not only required to wait for the practical period and then perform the experiment. So all the teachers already know that the law of conservation of mass is taught in the theory class also. So when they have explained it, that the mass of the reactants stays same even after the reaction has taken place, after explaining this they can show this experiment, and by that it is likely that students will definitely understand better and remember better. So I'll quickly show it that how easy it is to perform. Just I have kept the cursor here and the instructions have appeared. I have clicked on it. Now the next instructions have appeared. So we have taken 2 reactants Now the next step, I have to click on the test tube. I have to put it on the weighing machine so that we can note down the mass. So 150.21. Now I have to click on it. Now both the reactants are reacting with each other and the products are going to be formed within some time. So here inference has appeared that sodium sulfate solution, that one of the reactant has reacted with the second reactant and we got the product. So now we can click on this conical flask once again to note down the mass, and we can see that it is same as before the reaction. So if teacher has explained this concept and then teacher has made them see or perform this experiment, students will understand it in a better way rather than just simply explaining it using chalk and board.
Absolutely.
And if time permits, I can.
Yes. We can, if you very quickly, if you can give one physics experiment also, because let's cover all the branches.
Okay, no problem. So here I have selected a very simple experiment, and this experiment, after performing here, students may be excited to do it in reality also, even in their games period. So here it is speed of hopping on one leg. So here we are demonstrating the concept of speed, distance and time, how they are related to each other. And just while playing, students can learn the same. So here you can see that there is a girl and we have an option of distance. So I have selected 20 meter. I have clicked on start. Here you can see that the timer has started. It is showing 15 seconds. At the bottom we have worksheet. We can put the readings. I have added 20 meter, time 15 seconds, and we have got the speed. We can do it one more time, 25 meter, and then I can click on start. Now the timer is showing 17 seconds. So I can add a row. I can put the readings 25, 17 seconds, and I have got to know that the speed has increased, even though the distance has increased, but speed has also increased. So the same can be done by students whenever they get chance, whether through virtual lab or while playing also.
Absolutely, and these are so joyful that I myself feel like performing these experiments on virtual labs right away. But you were also talking about the feedback thing. So now let's talk about virtual labs as assessment tools, because once the experiment is done, practical is done, it's very important for a teacher to assess where the student stands, So how do you think, teachers can use virtual labs to assess students' practical skills and understanding in various subjects?
Okay, Harpreet, this is very much important to understand. We done teaching and learning. We have given a lot of input on how we will use that virtual lab in our teaching learning process. Now teachers might be wondering now how we will use this tool for assessment purpose.
Yes.
So normally we can use this tool for the formative assessment. Here I have highlighted some points, and this is the way you can assess your students. And first one, you can see here the assessment is here. Teachers also can assess as well as students. They can also track their learning, and many a times teachers are not available to give the feedback. Just now we have seen the simulation in our different subject Nidhi had given, that you can check whether I am performing well or not, or how I am going on that one. So you can see here immediate feedback or automated feedback you will get. So teachers as well as students, both they can record or track their learning.
Right.
And second one, I would like to request Nidhi, she can explain this one, how we can use this assessment tool as a gamified and interactive assessment.
As I have just shown that we can perform experiments. So performing experiment, and while we are performing the experiment, teacher can ask, we are talking about assessment. So teacher can ask that if I am, here in this or here, teacher can ask that if we are changing the type of light, what can be the reason behind it? Why with the change in light, the rate of photosynthesis is changing?
Yes.
So teacher can leave students with this question to think about it, and they can discuss with each other also.
Please room space for curiosity and creativity through these experiments. And ma'am, now we are left with only 2 more minutes, so I request you to kindly wrap up it quickly.
Okay, so here are some points I would like to draw here. This skill is very much important in the lab activities and the science learning. So how we are measuring as a teacher, how we are measuring as the skill enhancement, and how the students are actually acquired the skill or not. So that practical skill we can evaluate through this virtual lab session.
Yeah.
And data driven feedback. Suppose teacher is there unable to collect data individually from the student. So what pace students are learning, what they have learned. So this virtual lab with inbuilt technology inbuilt is there. So data driven feedback student as well as teacher get here. Then tracking the longitudinal progress. So this is a longitudinal progress I mean here. So one day we are performing the activities, after 5 days also you are performing the activities, and after 1 week also you are doing some activities. So this is the longitudinal progress you can measure. So first time when you are using that one, you have learned certain skill. Next time you have learned certain skill. So like that slowly you are learning lot of skill, and that is tracked through your teacher, and that can be better recorded in our this virtual lab platform. And the last part is help the students to improve analytical and critical thinking. So how this happening, the students how they are acquiring this analytical, critical and reasoning ability. This is very much important for the science teaching and learning, and teacher can assess this one. Actually critical thinking is enhanced, analytical and reasoning ability is actually learned by the student or acquired by the students. That can easily assess by using this virtual lab.
Right.
So,
And ma'am, because now we do not have any time left, but you can just show the last PPT, because here you have prepared it very nicely. All these assessment strategies are there. The conclusion is there, which of course our viewers can go through. But we have to wrap up the session over here. Students can take a note of this PPT and just go through this once, because it's very important to draw the conclusion of what we have discussed so far. Unless and until we are sure that what we are getting into, how can we take the most advantage of these virtual labs or any experience that we want to showcase. So with this, it's a wrap. But before I leave, let me thank both my experts. Thank you so much, Dr. Praveen. Thank you so much, Nidhi ma'am, for your contribution to the session. And now let's take a look at the schedule. What's coming ahead for you? Yes, there is an entire schedule for you of the programs that we broadcast during the day. And there is another program, which is lined up, and that is Sahyog. That is adolescence. Crucial yet chaotic. Well, yes, adolescence is a stage like that only, and we'll learn more about it. But for the moment, this is me, Harpreet Kaur, signing off. Take good care of yourself. Namaskar.